Alright, in the last section we went ahead and checked in and committed and pushed our code to the remote GitHub repository, right? So now we have a fallback, essentially copy of our code, and anything happens to our machine, which is our laptop or desktop, we can always go back and fetch it, right? Next, let's say you made some progress and then you show it to your product manager, and then he said, this is very nice progress. I want to show it to my client or to show it to the stakeholder, okay? And he wants it to be deployed on one of the servers and then give him the server links, right? So how do we go about that? There are a couple of things you can do. You can actually use some of the available services, the deployment services on the cloud, where you can host your application. And by linking it to your repository, every time you actually upload the code to the master branch, or merge the code from a development branch to the master branch, the continuous deployment pipeline will run and then deploy our latest code to the cloud provider. This is a pattern that we're going to follow as we go along in this course. We will always have continuous integration and deployment at the heart of our deployment process. As I was saying, there are multiple providers available. We'll be choosing one of them, which is called Netlify. Okay, let's take a quick look at this architecture deployment diagram. So we have our front-end React app, which we're going to be deploying on Netlify, and when we come to the backend, we'll be deploying it on Heroku, and then we'll establish connection between these two. So this is a fully cloud-aware, cloud-native solution. So let's head over to netlify.com. I'm already in here, so you can go ahead and sign in here or also sign up. Since I've already signed up, I don't have to do that. Maybe I'll just go ahead and then go through the process of signing up, just so that you're familiar with that process. So let's see, login. What was the sign up? Login via SSO. No. Let's see. I'll just go to netlify.com instead of app.netlify.com. Okay. Netlify. Let's head over here, and then if you go to the sign up, you will actually get different options. You can sign up with GitHub with individual email IDs and a few more options as well. Okay, since I've already done that, these processes are quite standard and should be really in the muscle memory for most of us. So I won't go over that essentially, because then if you click here, it's pretty simple. You just have to give an email ID and a password that you can remember and sign up, and that's it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say go ahead and log in, and I'm going to provide my user ID. All right, let's go in. Super, I'm already logged in, and in here I can go over to the sites. I can say new site from Git. Continuous deployment, choose a Git provider where your source code is hosted. I'll say go ahead and choose GitHub. Okay, and I'm already logged into GitHub, so it'll probably ask me which of the GitHub sites you want to essentially choose from here. So we'll say new site from Git. Okay, let's say GitHub. What's happening? It's not taking me to the next step. Say it's authorized. Is it actually giving me another window to authorize? You can unlock options for self-hosted. So pick a repository. Okay, let's go ahead and pick a repository. I think that should be the next step, right? Okay, let's go ahead and pick a repository. So in here, I'm going to go in and search for a repository. In case it's not there, we may have to go ahead and pick a repository here. So I can say, actually you have to go back and pick a repository. I'll type in my repository name, which is fe_indiecafe. It's not showing up for some reason. Okay, and what I'm going to do here, add another organization. No, can't see. Okay, let's configure this, right? Okay, we don't see it here. Let's go ahead and configure this, and let's see what repositories we have. So we have to essentially add the repository. Right now I have these repositories added, and I'm going to say pick my fe_indiecafe. This is the one that we created, right? I'll go ahead and save this. All right, and now this should be available to us. Okay, I'll go ahead and click on this, and it's starting to load the branches. I'm going to say I want to choose the master branch here. Scroll down a little bit and say deploy site. Okay, and let's see what we get here. All right, it says it's actually picking up the code base from our Git repository from the master, right? And it's actually saying it's in progress, right? In here as well. Yeah, it's saying site deploy in progress. Okay, I'll pause here for a moment and come back to see the progress again. Alright, so we're back here again on the console. Looks like our deployment failed, and let's check why it did. So we say click on go to deployment details, and in here it'll let us know what actually is happening. So let's scroll down. It's downloading the stuff from our GitHub repository. It's trying to build. There's all the packages. Okay, and it says failed to compile. Okay. And the reason is it says there is a warning here that this is defined but never used, all right? And looks like, from the looks of it, this was actually a warning. If I go back to my code base, this was actually a warning here, right? Right? So if I go to the code base here, if I click on this, and this is where we're using it, even though it's defined, it's not being used. So one of the requirements with Netlify is that if you're not using any variables and if they are defined in the code base, it'll actually treat that as a error, even though React treats it as a warning. Okay, so when we check in our code base, check in code to our code base, we want to make sure that there are no warnings like this going forwards. So what we can do now is we have to first get rid of this unused import, and then essentially check in to our remote repository, and then go through the merge process. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say get rid of this, and hopefully that'll get rid of the error as well. So right now it's saying compile successfully. There are no errors, right? And I will head over back to my command line, and in here I'll say git status. It says we have a change here. Okay, and now I don't want to go ahead and commit it to master. We will actually follow a process where we will actually go ahead and create a new branch out of master, and then do a pull request, and I will take you through that process as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say git branch -m. So I'm going to create a new branch, and that's called, what do we call it? I'll just say deploy address. Let's say address deployment fix. Yeah, say deployment -fix. All right, and then I'll say git add dot. Essentially, we have only one file here, so let's go ahead and do that. I'll say git commit -m. And I'll provide the message, input fix for deployment failure on Netlify. Okay, super. And then I'm going to push this change to this new branch. Say git push origin, and it was a branch, it was deployment fix, right? Say deployment. What is our current branch right now? Let's check that as well. Git branch, yeah, it's deployment fix. Git push origin. Okay, I'll go ahead and type the entire thing. Git push origin deployment -fix. Is that the correct? All right, that seems to be the correct spelling. Go ahead and push this. All right, I'll have to give in my credentials here. Let's go ahead and push this, and this should be seen on our GitHub repository now. Okay, let's go over to the GitHub repository. I hope it's here. Yeah, there is the new branch. Okay, it's already made its way up to the GitHub repository. Okay, and now what we can do is we can compare the changes to our master branch and create a pull request. Let's click on compare and pull request. Alright, so now we are presented with this window. We can actually leave a comment here. So essentially you can say fixed deployment issue. Okay, so let's say go ahead and create a pull request. It says able to merge, otherwise it probably could give some merge conflicts, right? I'll say merge pull request, which means it'll actually merge this code with our master branch, and which in turn will trigger a build on Netlify. Okay, so right now it's merging. It's actually doing a few pre-checks here. So if you look at it, the Netlify bot is doing a couple of things here in terms of processing that. So if I go back to Netlify now, which is right here, I should be able to see another deploy being triggered. Okay, let's go over to deploy again, and you see there is a new deployment here that's being triggered. It's actually building, and this is, I think, a new deploy if I'm correct. The building is done, and the merge pull request is here. Okay, so let's click on this, and hopefully it should go through fine this time. Let's look at the logs. They should be trailing anytime soon. Alright, we're back here. So if you look at Netlify logs right now, it says build script is success, and it's gone ahead and deployed it. Deploy completed it in 117 milliseconds. Okay, and if you go back to our GitHub page, it also gives us some interesting information in terms of the merge history and the commit, right? And so this is nice. Okay, so let's go over to Netlify and see what we get here. We can actually get to preview this. So essentially, if you want to preview how it looks like, it'll essentially give a preview of our website. So right now our website, the React UI, which essentially encompasses our navbar, footer, and the main components, are actually deployed on the cloud, on Netlify. Okay, but you also see that this is actually a random subdomain that they have chosen, which we want to change. So let's see what we can do about it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the deploy settings, and in here I should be able to get, this is not the deployment settings, actually it's the site settings. Okay, let's go over to site settings, and in here it has actually taken some random subdomain here, angry Tereshko or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and change this here. Let's click on change this, and I will say I want it to be Indie Cafe. Save, and that should be saved. Our site right now is ready for viewing. Okay, let's click on this one, and this is the complete URL. There we go. Super. So right now we have gone ahead and created our app on the cloud, on Netlify's infrastructure. So now we can go ahead and go back to your product manager, give this URL to him, and then he can go ahead and show it to the stakeholders, and then tell them about the progress and the subsequent plans and stuff like that. All right, and we will be moving forward with the same kind of workflow. Essentially, every time we do a major check-in and create a branch, and then create a pull request, merge it to the master, which will automatically trigger a deployment on Netlify. So this is nice progress, guys. We'll come back and then look at the next steps, and the next step would be to actually go ahead and build finally the landing page. Let's take that up in the next section. Until then, let's take a pause.